Welcome to the series on BlueWorx, a leading solution to mobilise your SAP Plant Maintenance operations. I'm Craig Bennett and I work for ZAG as their Product Development Manager. ZAG has been successfully selling, implementing and supporting our customers using SAP for over 20 years. Today, ZAG has over 80 customers in New Zealand and Australia, and we support BlueWorx customers globally. BlueWorx is a world-class solution. It includes many innovations designed to help you achieve meaningful business value. In this video series, we'll set out to provide you with insights into it. We'll demonstrate its ease of use, versatility, and the unprecedented width and depth of its functionality. I hope you find value in this and the other videos, not just in terms of BlueWorx, but also in providing you insights into some of the concepts, challenges, and approaches to mobilising your SAP asset management. If you have any questions about BlueWorx and how it might be applied to your operations, then please get in touch.
In this session, I'll lead with an introduction around BlueWorx and outline its functionality and what it does, before going into benefits, architecture, implementation, support and roadmap, and then a conclusion. Demonstrations on BlueWorx will occur in a separate series of videos. Let's get to it. So BlueWorx is all around providing an intuitive experience for you to mobilise your SAP Plant Maintenance. It does that for tablets and for phones, but importantly it also allows you to see those same screens on compliant browsers, so you have the ability to transition between mobile use and desktop use. It does that using SAP's own user interface, the same one that's used for Fiori, so it gives a consistent look and feel with the next generation SAP. BlueWorx supports multiple industries, and we've got a full range supported as customers at the moment, as you might expect since it's SAP Plant Maintenance based. The idea is it's delivering a quality user experience and simplifying some of the more challenging parts of end users, especially if they're unfamiliar with SAP and negotiating those back-end transactions, and mobilising it to take it on device and out in the field. It works fully offline as well as on the desktop, and that means that you can go out to the field and work offline where your work is. The solution is technically enabled from within SAP. There are no other systems involved, so it uses SAP and ABAP, and it's installed and configured in days. It does that, as I'll get through in later slides, using the SAP certified Neptune software to enable it, but that's still within the same SAP system that you're familiar with. The solution is highly innovative. We haven't just stuck with what's there in standard SAP. We've added a lot of value-added functions to increase the benefits that you can gain from mobilising SAP. The last point is that we built this solution based upon our own customers demanding that we did. They had needs that weren't being met by other products in the marketplace, and so we created BlueWorx for them and hopefully for you. The BlueWorx application is installed on your mobile device. That could be Android or iOS, and as I've mentioned, it's accessible compliant browsers on a desktop. Users authenticate using their standard SAP credentials or other SAP supported mechanisms, because from the mobile device, when you're talking back to SAP, you are using the SAP services provided for authentication. Some user profiles that administrators create in the BlueWorx admin tool dictate what master data you receive. That allows us to focus the data that's coming to the device for your location and your job role and the sort of work that you do. BlueWorx and then SAP settings dictate the work orders and notifications that you receive. So depending on your assignment type in standard SAP, the work orders could be work center based or could be personnel based. That decides, along with your profiles, what work orders you get on the device. And then the data is exchanged from and to SAP when you synchronize with the back end, and that can either be manually initiated, it can be automatically prompted, or it can occur silently when you're using the device, depending on the settings that you've maintained. So base functionality includes use of work or service orders, notifications, so you can create work or service orders and maintain them, create and maintain notifications. You can view functional location details and equipment details with some depth to that data. Bills of materials in support of those functional locations and equipment. It has a list of often used materials which you can issue, reserve or install with regard to the work orders that you have. We've enabled it with permits, so you can see permits for functional locations and equipment and visualize those in notifications and in work orders. There's documents and photos across all of those 4 things, so work orders, notifications, functional location and equipment, and then of course measurement points on the functional locations and equipment and the ability to create measurement documents against those. And there's also the ability to use functionality around a measurement reading list, which is a standard SAP functionality that's not often used, but the ability is there for a rounds type function. So one of the key areas of innovation that we have is the ability to undertake inspections against assets, and this is fully configurable, and I'll go through that in some detail in one of the other demonstrations. These inspections can be linked to generate off work orders, equipment or functional locations, so you can either do them as planned work against a work order, or you can have them as, if you like, ad hoc equipment and functional location inspections. So the key thing there is that it ties asset inspections into a single event that users can easily execute, and that they don't need to have a lot of knowledge around how SAP works, or they can be guided through the process through some plain questions and instructions. So rather than having to have, as some customers have had, tens if not hundreds of thousands of measurement points, some of which the responses don't really make a lot of sense, you can use inspections to gather rich data from the field. So the questions can all have an appropriate response that occurs, and that can be updating functional location or equipment records, including classification values. So for example, you can enrich as built data, or go out and validate serial numbers out in the field. They can create measurement documents, and they can also create notifications based upon your configuration where, say, condition grading means that a notification is required. There's also the option to take no action and just record that an inspection event was done, and that's actually quite important as well, because it allows you to use this functionality to give instructions that people go through and check that they've done something without necessarily it having a transactional event or master data update in SAP. So beyond even inspections, you can use this to drive quite detailed procedures and record each step of the way the response. And those other actions can also include things like taking photos and attaching that to the question, and gathering in things like signatures, etc. You can set up rules to dynamically change questions based upon asset or order values. So for example, you can show or hide or make mandatory one question based upon classification value of the equipment that you're inspecting, or the response that you've made in a previous question. All the results that are gathered are snapshot in time and saved inside of SAP. So from an audit perspective, you have full details recorded inside SAP of who responded to a question, what they were asked, and what results, if any, occurred within SAP as a result of their responses. And if you're online, then there's a separate mobile application that allows you to query previous inspections for an equipment or functional location, or indeed you can see the responses to an individual question across multiple assets. Another area of key innovation is that we have provided the ability to use Spatial Services within the application, and so that allows you to display maps and locate assets on those, either directly or using Esri ArcGIS services. And importantly, you can locate assets as points, as polygons, or as linear assets, and you can locate work as points, linear or polygons. So that's new functionality that we've not seen anyone else doing, and that allows you, especially in a linear type industry, for you to locate a series of work and have that display back in work orders. So for example, if you had tree trimming against a series of power lines, then you could take separate areas and display that as designated work areas for trimming the trees against the linear asset from within the work. And the third area that I wanted to touch on is an optional component of BlueWorx called KHRU, and so this is aimed at giving supervisors the ability to tactically manage the work under the work centres that they're assigned. So what that allows you to do is, as you can see from the screen here, you get to have a visual cue as to your work centre and the amount of capacity under or over on a given day, and visualise then that work assignment as work orders, and the ability to go and adjust those according to how your company is assigning work, so work centre or personnel at the header or at the operation level. You can see the list of your crew. You can phone them from a mobile device or text them, and you can see where they were last located when they synced with SAP, and also see status changes that they've recently made against orders and operations. We have a full site that administrators use to set up the system and then administer it on an ongoing basis and monitor it. And there'll be a separate video on this. There's a lot of settings. We've made it as flexible as possible. And after your initial setup, this is where administrators come and maintain and monitor everything that's to do with your solution. So benefits, I guess the only reason to mobilise or the only reason to change is because you're looking to gain benefits. And so the benefits that are most likely to be targeted fall into these 7 areas. The first is around resource waste reduction, and that's less paper, less time spent administering work orders and retyping in paper-based ones. The tool time means that you get more time spent out on the wrenches because you've had less time interacting, going back to the system to try and find additional information, perhaps printing things or looking for parts. The third is the reduction of downtime. Having Workforce Mobile means that you can respond more dynamically and more immediately to changes in terms of breakdowns, etc., and you can direct people to get onto the job and give them all the information they need much faster. Fourth area is regulatory compliance. So for a number of industries, they have regulations that they need to record results against and be able to prove that they have undertaken inspections or done work in accordance with various regulations. And so our inspections area is specifically targeted at ensuring that that occurs. Fifth is around customer service. So if you're one of those, perhaps a utilities type industry, external actually customers or internal customers, then having the ability to turn around jobs and direct the closest people or the right people to the job as fast as possible can be of enormous benefit. And the sixth area is around decision making. So the data that's being collected is a lot more broader than under a paper-based system. And because the entry of that data is direct and by an end user, they're not having to rely on paper and transposing it to come back to SAP, that means that the quality of the data is better. And because those updates can occur back to SAP in a manner of seconds or minutes, then the currency of the data is also much better than a drawn-out paper-based process. And the last point is quite an important one, and that's around workforce engagement. Certainly in our experience with customers, workers really respond to the investment made and being given the right tool to do what they need out in the field, and that certainly helps with engagement. And there's a link in the middle of the screen on this where we have created a presentation pack that will expand these points in more detail and also gives you an idea of a process chain around time and motion study if that's the direction that you need to go in. So you're welcome to go and have a look at that. So architecture. So as I mentioned in the intro, BlueWorx sits straight on top of SAP and it's enabled using Neptune software. So you install Neptune SAP certified solution on your SAP system, and that uses the standard SAP functionality in terms of ABAP and in terms of security and access into the system to facilitate communication out to the mobile device. So the building of the mobile solution is also done using the Neptune product from within the SAP system. So no black boxes outside of SAP, it's all internal. And the great thing there is that Neptune software is not limited to BlueWorx use, so we've got a number of customers that have also used it to innovate and create applications, whether they be in support of standard SAP functionality or something a little bit special. And so this gives you the ability to mobilise those as well, and you can have those additional features within the BlueWorx app, if you like, on your mobile device. So there's not an app for each. You can have it all transitioning through the same Neptune launchpad out to your mobile device or desktop if that's what you want to do. So there's a number of ways to set it up. I'm just going to go through a couple of examples on that. The first one is that from your SAP system, ERP or S4HANA, you have an internal web dispatcher, and you also have another one that's located in a DMZ between firewalls, and your external and internal traffic, if you like, accesses through to SAP using those web dispatchers. So that's a pretty typical setup for customers running Neptune. The next one is that some customers have a split SAP gateway, and Neptune and we support that. So very similar to the previous slide, except now you have the front end being served through the gateway system and connectivity via RFC down to the SAP ERP or S4HANA system. The SAP Web Dispatcher is software that's provided obviously by SAP, but some customers choose to use their own component in substitute of that reverse proxy. So you don't have to use the Web Dispatcher. Anything that will adequately secure your HTTP traffic coming into your systems is fine. So one of the key things that we looked at when we created BlueWorx was that we recognised that it's very often the case that customers have their own special requirements that they need to support. Now, that may be that you've got a field that's been extended in a work order or equipment or functional location, or more elaborate logic that you need to embed in the application around your business processes. We support that in BlueWorx. So what happens is that when you install the BlueWorx application, we get you to create what we call an extension app for those, and the end users actually access that. And it may be that you stick to stock standard, but if you do choose to adjust anything in there, you won't have overridden the stock standard BlueWorx, and that makes the upgrade process and updates and patches that are coming through a lot easier, because you can see where you've deviated from standard. And that applies to both the front end, if you like, the app that you see on your phone, and also the app end where you can go and adjust the logic that you're using to process updates in SAP. In terms of implementation, well, there's a lot of commonality, of course. Each company does have things that are unique to them, and so there's a bit that you need to think through in terms of how the implementation is going to go. I'm not going to go through each of these, but I would say that like most projects, the sponsorship and the focus from the top is one of the key measures for success. I think that the other one would be the change management, because you've got to take the end users with you, and getting them involved and on board and really keen about the solution is going to have a large impact on the success and the benefits that you gain from mobilising. Put a list of typical responsibilities. You can pause and go and review those as you might like. This is just typical. As I said, each implementation can be different. So the next two slides, here's some general implementation tasks that occur. Like the previous slides, there can be changes, but these are the sort of steps that you go through. Probably in an experienced SAP world, there won't be anything there that's a little unusual. And then on to the next one. One of the things is security testing. Often the BlueWorx is the first application exposed to the outside world from SAP for customers. And so we recommend that you get security penetration testing done by professionals, just to ensure that your SAP system is maintained and secure. Okay, an important part of any solution is support and the ability to have a voice in that. So we have an extensive support site. You can see the address there on your screen. If you're welcome to browse that. You're welcome to register, even if you're not a customer, and ask questions by raising support tickets. There's a wealth of information, some of which I'll be going through and demonstrating on this video series, but you can go in there and get a real idea about the functionality and the depth of functionality that's involved. We have some demonstration apps that you can use for Android or iOS that are available that give you an idea of some of the look and feel. Of course, it makes more sense when it's your data and your operations. So if you're wanting to see something a little bit more realistic or a demonstration, then please do get in touch. A key thing that we've worked on since the inception of BlueWorx is that we make releases on a fairly regular basis, and of two types. The first is bug fixes and minor changes, and the other is support packs where we push out new and improved and innovative functions. A lot of those come from customers who request some new functionality, and in quite a few cases we actually manage to push those changes out within the cycle of their project, keeps them from having to do their own enhancements. This ability to influence is a key advantage for our customers, and I guess when we're looking at that, one of the key things is that it has to in general be supportive of SAP standard core plant maintenance functions or innovations around that, and it has to be able to add value to many or the majority of customers and not be unique to that customer in the way that they use SAP. So we don't want to get into a situation where we're making enhancements that disrupt other customers or force them to use processes that aren't part of their work practices. So, conclusion, why BlueWorx? Well, you need to establish your own targeted benefits, and we've given you some ideas on that, but the key points is that BlueWorx has unmatched functionality. So that is in terms of the breadth of functions that we've enabled and the depth of details within each one of those. It's a world-class solution. It's being used around the globe. So it works for other customers. It can work for you. It's made because our customers demanded that we make it to address their needs and to address the needs that weren't being satisfied by other options. It's truly innovative. It's not just a case of mobilising what's there in SAP. As I pointed out, there's a number of areas in the product that are all about providing innovation and taking SAP Plant Maintenance to the next step. For example, the inspections side of it and the maps. The user interface is the same as SAP Fiori, so that gives a commonality in the way that you engage with the SAP environment, and that will become more and more relevant as more and more customers move to S/4HANA and make greater use of the new and improved user interface. The actual development itself is in excess of thousands of man days of development, built on for ZAG decades of combined SAP enterprise asset management experience. And that investment continues. We continue to innovate and we continue to improve at a rapid pace. And finally, unlike other solutions, BlueWorx leverages your existing SAP investment, working both with your ERP instances, ECC6, all the way up to SAP S/4HANA. There are no other systems for you to install. There are no external third parties for you to configure. No portions are of the solution are in the cloud, and that makes it the simplest option to deploy and to maintain. So I hope that presentation has been a benefit and given you a good idea on what BlueWorx is and does and can do for you and your business. Look out for the other presentations around the functionality where I'll go into more depth, and there'll be a lot less PowerPoint slides and a lot more looking at the system and giving you an understanding of how it works. If there's something that interests you, then please do get in contact with myself or with Carl McGowan. and we'd be very happy to set up a demo or answer any questions for you. If you want to do more research by yourself, then a few slides back I showed you the support site. You can go on there and find out more information. Thank you for your time.